Yeah, good morning, my learners and viewers all over the world. Today we'll be talking about percentage change. This is part of the percentage series we'll be looking at. We've looked at the basic aspect of percentage, then we went ahead to look at the percentage of amount, and now today we'll be looking at the percentage change. In calculating percentage change, we'll say percentage change can be solved using two methods. Can be solved using two methods. There are two methods that you can use to increase or decrease an amount by a certain percentage. If you are asked to work out the cost of an item that is 280 pounds and had 26% off, look at the keyword here, and had 26% off. So there are two methods. So in summary, what this page or this slide is trying to tell us is, going by this question, that if an item costs 280 pounds and you are told that 26% has been taken off. So to solve that, there are two ways to do that. First thing first, the first method is to first of all get the 26% of the initial amount of the item, which will you get this. And once you have this, you will now subtract it from the original amount from 280, and you get this. Or better still, since we are told 26% is taken off, what you just needed to do is to subtract the initial percentage from the original percent, which is 100. Because in this case, we assume the original item is equal to 100%. Sorry, let me clean this. So we always assume that the original amount of the item is 100%. So what you just need to do, because the keyword is 20% off, 20% off, you now take it away. You now take 26%, sorry, 26% off. You take it away from 100, you have 74%, which is this. Once you get this, then remember 74% is still the same thing as 74 out of 100. Solving this manually or using your calculator, you have a 0.74. So what you just needed to do is to multiply 0.74 by the original amount, and you get the amount you're asked to look for. Remember that no matter the route or the method you use, you must arrive at the same answer. You can see you must arrive at the same answer. It doesn't matter whatever method you've used, and I've shown you from the previous session how to go about this using different methods. So it depends on you. Whatever method you feel comfortable with, please use it as long as you arrive at the same answer. So therefore, this is the basic summary of everything we have to look for. Remember, percentage change may be either an increase or decrease. Put in other words, the change may be positive or negative. It will be negative if it is decrease or minus, and it will be positive if it is increase. Whichever way, the bottom line is you get your answer correctly, no matter the type of method or route you use. So let's move on to the next slide and see if there are class activities to buttress our explanation or to substantiate what we've been talking about. Yeah, I don't want to waste time here. This is easily understandable, so I will encourage my learners to go through this. So let's move on to the next slide. So let's look at these questions in our normal practice. We'll look at, because of time, we'll look at questions. We'll look at this question and question two. And on this other side, we'll look at this and this. Then, and I encourage my learners or viewers to have a go at question number three here and this all other question here. This will help you or help my learners in the course of doing their personal revision. This will help them to deepen their knowledge. And once they've done that, you can now move to the answer slide to cross-check your answer. So let's start with this first one. The first question says, Simeon sees the same model of digital camera for sale in two different shops. Which shop is selling the camera at the cheaper price? Give reason for your answer. So let me create space to solve this. Let's create space. So let's start with cross camera and spice camera. Mm. Okay, let me try out this here. Let me solve it here. So this is cross camera. We can abbreviate it to CC, and we have space camera. So we can call that PC. So for cross camera, we said 30% of normal price of 245. So remember, we are trying to see which shop will see me or buy the camera cheaper. So we need to find 30% off the normal price. 30% off the normal price. I've told you that so many ways to do that. If you like, you can take 30% away from 100%. This can be likened to the normal price of £245 can be equated to 100%. You take 30% out of 245 out of 100%, that will give you 70%. So 70% is also known as 0.70. You multiply it by 245. Whatever you get, then you do same on space camera. You definitely arrive at the same answer. But let's use the other route I prefer to use. So 30%, so we'll say 30% of the normal price. So we get 30% times 245. 245. So the zero will cancel out this. You multiply 3 times 245. We'll be having 735 divided by 10 times 1 will give us 10. So if you divide this manually, you'll be having 73.5. But because we are dealing in money, this becomes £73.50. 73 pound 50p. So what we've gotten the 30% of the original price, which is £245. So 30% of this amount is £73.50. So the next step is you need to take this away from the original amount. So the original amount is 245 minus 73.50. That will give us 171.50. That's if Simo is buying the camera from cross cameras, it will be paying £171.50. So let's look how much he will be paying if he buys it as Spiff's camera. Spiff's camera is saying 35% off normal price of 270. 35% so of normal price, that will be 35 over 100 times 270 over 1. So if you multiply 35 times 270, you'll be having 9,450. You can cross check. My learners, you can cross check. 100 times 1 will give us 100. So if you divide 9,450 by 100, you should be having 94.50p. So at the end of the day, you take 94.50p away from 270. That's 270 minus 94.50. So you'll be getting 175.50. So the question says which shop is selling the camera at the cheaper price? Definitely CC Cross Camera is selling the Cross Cameras shop is selling the digital camera at £171.50. So you and I know definitely Simeon will go this. Reason being that it's the cheaper of the two. So the answer here Simeon will go for is £171.50p. Then the next question says, let's look at this question. It says Pamela buys a car for 3,400 and pays a 15% deposit. How much has she still to pay? So first thing first, you find 50% of 3,400. So that was 15%. 15% times 3,400. Sorry, let me add this variable of 3,400. 15% of 3,400. If you do this, these two zeros will cancel out this. So 15 times 34 will give us 510. You can cross check 510. 15 times 34 will give us 510. Therefore, the deposit that Pamela will be paying for the car, which is 15%, is 510 pounds. But you don't need to stop there. But the question is, how much does she still need to pay? So this is the deposit. So you need to take this away from the cost of the car. So that will be 3,400, 3,400 minus 510. Therefore, Pamela will still need to pay 2,890. So that's what Pamela still needs to pay, 2,890 pounds. Now, that is that. So what we've done is we've done this. What we did is to look at this question, this camera question, we solved it here. And number 2 was solved here too. So Pamela will still need to pay 2,890 pounds. So let's quickly look at this question 1 and question 2 here. So it suffice we can do it here. The next question says Last year, there were 20 students in a class. This year, there are 30% more students. How many students are in the class this year? So what you just needed to do is to find the 30%, because the question says there are 30% more students. So what we need to do is to find the 30% of 20 students, and whatever we get, we'll add it to the number of students that were available as at last year. So let's look at it. Let's do it here. Let me do it here. So to find 30%, so what we just needed to do is to find 30% of 200, of 20, sorry. 30% of 20 times 20 over 1. So that will be this, cancel this, cancel this. So 30% of students that were available as of last year is 6. So what we just needed to do is to add this to this, because the question says how many we have 30% more students. So what we just needed to do is to add it to what we have as our last year. So that will be 20 plus 6 will give us 26 students. So we'll be having 26 students as at this year. So let's look at question number 2. Question number 2 says, a TV normally costs £520. In a sale, all prices are reduced by 10%. Calculate the sale price of the TV. So what we just needed to do is to find 10% of 50 or 520. Whatever you get, as usual, you take it away from 520. So when looking at this, we can say 10% of 520 is same thing as £52. Okay, let me just show it for showing sake. So 10% times 520. So now the zero will cancel out this will cancel out this. So you have £52. So the 5% is £52. But we're told that in a sale, it's reduced. In a sale, all prices are reduced by 10%. Calculate the sale price of the TV. Therefore, you will now have 520, 520 minus 52. 520 minus 52 will give us 468. Therefore, the sale of the price of the TV during sales was 468 pounds. So at this juncture, we've been able to do justice to this question here. We arrived at, we concluded that Simeon should buy his camera at Kron's Camera at the price of £171.50p. Reason being that this is the cheaper of the two. Then number 2, we said Pamela buys a car for this. How much does she still have to pay? We found the 15% of 340, which is 510, has been the deposit she has paid. So you need to take it from the original amount. That will have the balance Pamela will need to pay is 2,890. Then we went as far as looking at this question. This question says, as our last year, there were 20 students, but this year we have 30% more students. So what we did was to find the 30% of 20 students, which is 6. You add it to the original amount of students that were available last year, which is 20. So this year you get 26. Then we looked at the TV price. That was the original price is 520, but we're told in a sale it's reduced by 10%. So what we just needed to do is to find 10% of 520, which will give us £52. Then you take it away from the original amount, which is 520, and you'll be arriving at £468. So we've looked at this. Because of time, we'll be stopping here, and that has been our routine on this platform so as to encourage more practice by learners or viewers that are for their personal revision, or those that are preparing to take their exams in hopefully in May, June. So we'll now move on to the next slide and cross-check our answers. You can see the first one is this. That's what we solved because crown we said for sure this is cheaper. That's the reason. Correct. And we got this correct. These two correct and these two correct. So thank you very much. You can see the ones who've attempted are all correct. So what I will encourage my learners or viewers is please be patient. No, even if you are wrong or you make a mistake, it's normal. It's normal. But what I will encourage you to do is to correct yourself, pick from your mistake, learn from your mistake, then correct and keep practicing. Because remember, the more you practice, the better you become in whatever you do. As we draw near to exams, please, I will encourage my learners, keep practicing so that you stand a better chance in getting good grades. As usual, if you still struggle with any of the topic on percentage or other previous topics I have, because for now, I have close to 22 videos. If there is any topic that's still confusing, please go to my comment section and reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to respond to all your concerns and your questions. Thank you very much. This is your regular host, Valentine, and see you in the next session. Bye.